Hello everyone. I just wanted to post a brief introduction that I promised you at the beginning of the course. My name is Frank Plunkett. I am your instructor for this session at Peirce College. I'm going to be doing this particular intro for both of my classes this session. I'm teaching the criminology course on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So one thing that might be important to you, if you're on campus and you need to see me, I'm there from 9, I'm saying about 8 o'clock, I should say, in the morning on Tuesday until maybe 2 after class is over, because we're done about 1:45, and I probably stay on campus about an hour more. And then I have the policing class, which of course half of you are in, which is on Wednesday evening at 5:30. I usually arrive on campus about 2, so again, if you're in the area on campus and you want to see me face to face, especially those of you that are taking the class online, I love to meet my students face to face and sit down and chat with them. I had a great chat with one young lady just the other day, and it was very, very interesting. Of course, we didn't have, it wasn't in class and there were no other students around, so we could get to share a lot of things about each other and get to know each other a little bit better. That's always good to see, your instructor as a real person and see where you're coming from and what your thoughts and dreams and whatnot in the field of criminal justice and in life, and where you're coming from. So I wanted to do that little introduction. Of course, I put a lot of information in the course already that you can see about my background and what have you, but I'll tell it to you here so you can see me face to face, and that's what I think is important. It's one thing to read things, it's another thing to get the tone, which is also an important thing in our discussion groups. Each course has a discussion group, and you're answering specific questions, and some of them may cause some differences of opinion between students, and maybe even between you and I. But what I like to try to do, at least in my view of looking at these questions, is not look at them in an emotional way, not look at them in a, okay, well, this is what happened to me, so it must be that all people like that must be doing the same thing. No, I like to look at it in a more academic way, and we're in a college, and we're studying these subjects in an academic format, and you really do need to be open to opinions from other side, but also to look at the facts that may not support what you believe, because sometimes they're out there, and no matter what side of the political equation you are, whether what side you're on with the debate today, whether the police use of force and targeting certain minorities and all that kind of thing, you have to actually look at the facts and the data. What is really going on? How many people of a certain race or color or creed or gender affiliation, gender identity, what have you, are being targeted by any other people? Because some of these things make big news, and yet we might see the big news and think, oh my God, look at all these people being attacked. But then when you look at the data and you see, okay, look at all the ones that the news didn't cover. And that's all I'm asking. Be open to facts and information, even if it is different from what you perceive in your own little world. Because understand, and we debate this a lot in a lot of classes that I've taught over the years. I've been teaching like 7 years. And, people grow up in their own little world. Look at the political debate. People wear either the red glasses or the blue glasses, depending on which side of the political aisle you're on. And people see things through their own perspective. And in criminology, we're going to be looking at, where do some people come from? And how do people form their opinions? How do people become the people that they are? And in some cases, it has a lot to do with what you're used to. If you're growing up in an inner city area where there's a lot of crime and the police are constantly stopping people and sometimes appropriately, sometimes inappropriately, that's your world. If you grow up in a suburb where you're lucky if you see the cops driving down the street during the day, that's a whole different world. One person's going to see possibly the police as an oppressive force, and maybe one time or 2 times or 3 times they got stopped and they knew they weren't doing anything wrong, but the cop didn't know that. And maybe the cop saw something that hinted their interest. There's an appropriate way to do that, of course. But if you're living in small town or in the suburbs, maybe you don't even see that. So we have to understand that we all come from our own little world, and we have our own little bubble. Even President Obama, in his outgoing speech, talked about people living in their bubble and not taking the time to understand what other people do. And our policing class just recently finished. For those on campus, those of you who weren't on campus, you missed an awesome thing. Our career development office at Peirce College provided a program on emotional intelligence, and it really set me to thinking. I mean, I've read a lot about the topic, and I know a lot about the topic, and some of the resources that they brought out. But some of the important things that were reinforced is understanding who you are and yourself, but also taking the time to understand others before making a judgment of sorts. That's one take home that I have is understanding who I am, where am I coming from, what's my worldview, before I'm going to have an argument or disagreement with somebody because their worldview may be different than mine. I have to try to understand. A guy named Stephen Covey, who wrote a phenomenal book that everybody should read called The 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. Actually, one of his, I think it's habit number 5, is seek first to understand before trying to be understood. In other words, before you jump in there and say, this is the way it is, try to understand the other person and their point of view, because it may help you to get a better gauge on what's going on. So those are some important things. But anyway, who am I? Where did I come from? Well, I'm 56 years old, so I've been around probably longer than all of you, unless I have some older students. I don't know. In my other school, I had a guy who was like the same age as me. He was a retired Navy guy, and he wanted to be a cop. I don't know if he's still doing that. Philadelphia Police doesn't have an age requirement, and that's where he wanted to go, so we'll see. But I'm guessing that I'm probably older than most of you, maybe even as old as some of your fathers or whatever, but whatever. I am a very forward-thinking kind of guy, and I really enjoy talking with people. So that's why I'll call you up. If I haven't seen you for a week or two, I'll call you up and say, hey, what's going on? I obviously had that in the first 2 weeks of class, as you all know. If you don't make it in the first 2 weeks, you don't attend either on campus or online, you get dropped. And I spent some time reaching out to 4 different people who I had not seen. And 2 of them eventually were able to attend. And now we're going to move on, and hopefully we'll all be successful. But where do I come from? Well, I was actually born in Philadelphia in the Germantown section, lived there until I was like 8 years old. Went to a Catholic school called Immaculate Conception, which is not there anymore. It's like Sprague Street near, I think, Cheltenham Avenue, or that area somewhere. The church is still there, but the school burned down many, many years ago after I moved to the suburbs. My parents moved us to the suburbs in New Jersey, a place called Mount Laurel, where, again, Catholic schools, Catholic high school. I went back to Philly. As a college student, I went to LaSalle College down in Germantown, and got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And then eventually, about a year after I graduated from college, became a police officer, first starting in the city of Vineland, which is in southern New Jersey. And after about a year there, I went up to Mount Laurel, which was my hometown, and that's where I spent my entire career. Years on the street, years in public education, years in the DARE program. If you're familiar with that, it was a drug prevention program that exists still across the country. And also in community policing, community outreach, which we're going to be talking about in the policing class. And one of the things that's important that I realized during my career, that there were things in my college years that became very important. Like those of you taking criminology, you might think, well, when am I ever going to use this information? Who cares about these theories? Well, when you get into some of the things, especially today with more and more community outreach and trying to understand the community and having the police work better with the community, some of the things that you learn in criminology, and certainly in the policing class, are going to be very helpful in that vein and trying to actually be successful. Because it's not all about chasing bad guys and locking them up. Because, remember, those of you in policing class know this, and maybe the criminology people have heard about it before. Sir Robert Peel, who was like the guy who created the London Metropolitan Police Department in 1829, he had 9 principles of policing, which are posted in the policing class. If anybody in a criminology class wants to see what they are, just Google. You'll get about three or four different links to PDFs where you can actually look at the 9 things. But we're actually doing things today that are directly related to what he said back then, and that's reaching out to the public, policing by authority of the people, treating people right. But one of his big things was preventing crime rather than going after it. And I am very big on that. I think if the more that we interact with the community, the more we work with the people, the more likely that we're going to help alleviate the crime problem and maybe not have so much of it. Yeah, there's still going to be people out there. In criminology, we're studying where they come from and how they become who they are. And you're still going to have to be investigating crimes and chasing bad guys. But I think the more we invest on the positive prevention side, the less we're going to have to put out on the negative, lock people up side, if you know what I'm saying. And I think that's been proven throughout the years when police departments have gone in and really been really hard on the folks. A lot of people got pissed off. Look at stop and frisk. When Mayor Nutter came into office and hired Commissioner Ramsey, and they said, hey, we're going to make stop and frisk a policy. And that kind of forced cops to go out and stop people. And in some cases, people were stopped when they didn't fit the requirements for a legitimate stop and frisk. Some of you know that stop and frisk goes back to a Supreme Court case called Terry versus Ohio, where the Supreme Court decided when a police officer could stop and detain someone and then frisk them. I mean, you can always stop somebody on the street and say hi. But if they say, screw you, officer, I'm going on, you got to have a little bit more to say, no, you're staying here. And that's what stop and frisk was all about. You have to have that reasonable, articulable suspicion that someone is involved in some kind of crime. You don't have to be able to say what crime it is, believe it or not. And I would say that if you're one of those people that, like, these cops are out there stopping people for no reason, read the Terry versus Ohio decision and you'll have an understanding of what they really need to do that. But anyway, sometimes police agencies go overboard. In Los Angeles, I think it was back in the 80s when they had this humongous gang problem in South Central LA. They went in there with the sheriff's department and the police department like gangbusters, to coin a term, gangbusters, that's what they were doing. And they were locking up all kinds of people, and they were stopping everybody every which way with loose on the street. And there were a lot of innocent people that lived in those gang neighborhoods that were caught up in all that. And the problem, yeah, they locked up a lot of gangbangers and they got a lot of them off the street, but they also got a lot of people mad at the police department. So there's a really delicate balance that through criminology and policing and all the other courses here at Peirce, you're going to figure out, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this. So as I said, I was a police officer for 25 years total. I retired in 2009. While I was a police officer, I got a master's degree in education or teaching and a master's degree in criminal justice, which allows me to then teach at this level. I taught for ITT Tech for like 6 years, from 2009 until just this past September. So actually 2010, I should say. So 6 years there. I started at Peirce in March as an adjunct faculty while I was still adjunct at ITT. I had been the chairperson for criminal justice at ITT until March, when my position was eliminated because they were downsizing and they were actually eliminating criminal justice. So, being able to jump over here to Peirce is a great thing, and I hope to be able to build my relationship with Peirce and maybe see more of you more often in our courses as our program grows. So I've been teaching for quite a while, and both of your courses I've taught numerous times at ITT. This is my second time to teach the policing course here at Peirce, and the first time to teach the criminology course here at Peirce. But I taught both of those courses in numerous times with similar textbooks in my, I'm sorry, I forgot to turn the speaker off on my computer. That's dinging because I'm getting email. But anyway, that's pretty much it. I really, as far as students and getting engaged is concerned, I'm one that you can reach out to almost any time. I've posted my phone number. I've posted the Peirce College email, which I check regularly. It's actually on my phone. I don't have my phone with me right now, but it comes in on my phone. So if you send an email to the Peirce College address, as long as my phone's working or not dying, which I've been having a little problem with the battery lately, but still, I try to keep it charged up, and I'll get that. If you send me a text message with the phone number I gave you, that's a Google Voice, and it's synced to go right to my phone as well. So I should get that. And unless you're sending me a message at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to reply as soon as possible. So usually my phone's with me. When I'm home overnight, my phone is actually in this room. I don't take it to bed. And a lot of people suggest you don't take your phone to bed. You're not sleeping well. Like if you see that 6 ABC commercial where the guy's laying in bed with his wife and he's looking at the phone and he's got his 6 ABC app, that's dumb. Because there's a lot of studies that show that just the light on the screen, even after you put the phone away, keeps you awake. It takes longer to sleep. So it's a good idea. Like I do, my phone is in here. Unless, of course, you need that phone for contact. I still have a landline house phone, so I don't. But it's a good idea to keep that phone somewhere else so that you're not getting bothered by texts and notifications and everything. Either that or turn them all off. If you're one that, if the cell phone is your only phone, just let the ringer work so people can call you, but turn everything else off so that you can sleep. Because that's one of our societal issues is so many people have cell phones and they're having the notifications all night long and they're going nuts with Facebook notifications, Instagram, Twitter, and I'm on all those if you want to look me up. Appropriate stuff. But anyway, I've been teaching, like I said, almost 7 years now in both ITT and Peirce. I love working with students, so I'm open to contact anytime. Face-to-face meetings on campus. Obviously, I told you already when I'm there Tuesday and Wednesday this session. If we need to arrange something special, I'll be happy to come out. Peirce is my only working commitment right now. Of course, I have a commitment here to my home and doing things and making sure the house doesn't fall apart and that kind of stuff. But other than that, and sharpening the saw, which is another Stephen Covey thing, is constantly making sure that I am knowledgeable in my field. So I'm always, as you see my bookcase behind me, which needs to be updated, but constantly reading and learning, and that's what you should be doing as well. So if you're not reading other stuff, definitely be reading your textbook chapters. I've told that to the people in class. You should be reading, you should be highlighting, you should be making sure that you're going over it both. I suggest that you go over the chapter before you start going into the lesson material, either online or in class, and then review it afterwards or just before you take the weekly quiz. And for those of you in the policing class, we noticed last night in class that there are some questions in the Chapter 11 quiz, at least one, that is being graded improperly by the website. I can't change the quiz, but I can give you the points if we acknowledge that mistake is there. So make sure that every quiz that you take in either policing or criminology, that you are reviewing those materials. And if you think, hey, that's not the right answer, well, look it up in the book, find the answer, and let me know. And then I'll go back and I'll review it. And I actually have materials that tell me exactly where all the answers are in the book. If I don't, know it like off the top of my head, and I don't think we should expect anybody to be, that much of a wizard to know everything off the top of my head. Especially there's some arcane things that are in the quizzes that we may not care about later on. But there's a lot of good stuff as well. So, but if you see a mistake, just let me know. All right, we're coming up on 19 minutes. I don't want to be too long because people get bored with long videos. But again, I'm open to questions, comments, online chat, phone talk, meet at school, emails, however you need to contact me. If you want to discuss something, if you have a question of something, if you're not sure, get a hold of me. And we're in week 3. We're coming up on week 4. Remember, both classes have a project that is due. The draft of the project is due when your assignments would normally be due for week 4. So next week, say your classes start Tuesday and Wednesday are the course days. So a week from then, when your assignments normally due, your draft. What needs to be in that draft? I need 1 to 2 paragraphs explaining your topic and what it is, how you're going to look at it, what you think you're going to find out about it. What are you really going to study if you're doing as someone said, they're going to do chapter 3 to biosocial or original or early theories of crime in criminology. Well, what is it that you're actually going to tell us about? And then you need to have your sources, which I believe both of the projects say you need 7 sources. So I need to see what those sources are. And I also would like to see a brief abstract. What is that source? How does it relate to your topic? Which means by now, and if you haven't done it, you got to get into it. You should be researching your topic. You should be digging up those 7. And when you're really doing research, you're not just finding 7 sources. You might find 15 sources, and you whittle it down to 7 that are really appropriate for what you want to learn. Because remember, when you're doing this, work with sources, you're going in and reading the source, and then you're distilling the information from that source, and then writing it, for the most part, in your own words, in your paper, and of course citing it, proper in-text citations, reference lists at the end, all in APA format. So if you haven't got on that draft, you need to get on it because it's due in like a week and a half. The other thing that if I haven't gotten from you, just what is your topic? That was supposed to be week 1 actually in class. Obviously, because of the format that we're using, some of you are not in class. And I told the in-class people to tell me by class in week 2. Send me a message in the Dropbox. It says, what is it that you are going to be doing for your project? Do that right now, as soon as possible, because you should have been thinking about it already. And then, of course, in a week and a half, I need that first draft. And then by the end of the session, we need the full project, which includes a PowerPoint of no more than 15 slides, and also a written paper, which is basically the same information that's in the PowerPoint, but in more detail. All right, and of course that's got to be properly sourced, in-text citations on each slide where you use information from your sources, reference lists at the end, same thing in the paper. Again, if you have any questions, reach out. I'm always here. Some people already know that. I'm ready, willing, and able to help you whenever I can. So y'all have a great day. I hope that everybody's watching this. Bye.